Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining with us this afternoon. I'm Renette Besaidenote, and I'm standing in for Hephzibah Brauer, and she's normally the host. Such a big footprint that she has with Coffee with the King, but we welcome you this afternoon, and I have the privilege of standing in with her for her this time, as she's at the moment in Belgium, and she's visiting her family, her daughter, and she's ministering over there. So she just sent me a message early this morning to say she is missing you all. She's missing being on the program, but she has asked me just to stand in for 1 or 2 or 3 programs for her. So you might see me still 1 or 2 times. But in the meantime, we're going to still have amazing guests on in our studio here this afternoon. And we just want to thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Rusty, you have got such a remarkable testimony. Rusty Labuschagne has got a testimony that I'm already just smiling from inside and out. I've had him on my own personal program before, and excuse me, and it's just been such a privilege to know you. And you have written the most amazing book called Beating the Chains, and you have got a remarkable testimony. So you're going to share that with us this afternoon, where you've been, and what has the Lord done for you, and how did you survive what you survived? So kindly share that with us.
Okay, thank you, Renette. Firstly, I just want to let the audience know where I come from. So I'm French Huguenot, and through religious persecution, my ancestors fled France and settled in the Cape between 1688 and 1691. And in 1913, my great-grandfather trekked from Dar in the Northern Cape up to a little place called West Nicholson in Zimbabwe, or Rhodesia in those days. And that's where my life started. From humble beginnings as a 4th-generation Zimbabwean in a cattle ranching background. I went to boarding school at 6 years old, 200 k's away. I lost my dad at 12. And it was a humble upbringing and tough. And I was crazy about rugby, and I eventually ended up playing for Zimbabwe, several test matches. We grew up hunting and fishing, just normal kids, and went into the safari business. And by the year 2000, I had 5 of my own hunting areas, a fishing resort on Lake Kariba. I flew my own aircraft, 54 guys working for me. I mean, life couldn't have been better.
Yes.
I was living the life. Yeah, and then in December 2000, I went on a fishing trip with friends to my fishing resort on Lake Kariba. And late one afternoon, one of my mates and I decided to go tiger fishing on the lake, leaving the other 9 guys bream fishing in the river. And on our way back, we spotted 2 fish poachers in a steel boat, who immediately upon seeing us started paddling hastily for the shore in an effort to get away from us. Knowing they were notorious poachers, I'd had endless problems with them. I drove my boat towards them to scare them off, and the wake of my boat tilted their boat, causing them to jump out into the water. They were about 3 meters from the shore, and the water was about 1.5 meters deep. And they soon scrambled to dry land and ran away off into the bush, and we didn't think anything more of it. The following day, the police arrived with one of the poachers and accused us of drowning the other one.
Oh my goodness.
To cut a long story short, I was framed by the poacher, the police, and the courts, and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. And 5 were removed as remission. On the 3rd of April 2003, after just over 2.5 years after the incident, without a body and against police evidence, I was convicted of drowning that guy. The shock was inexpressible. I was innocent. And I was a self-made, successful businessman with a high standing in the community. And my life changed forever from that moment. The conditions I wanted to point out, so that was my life up to then. First of all, you're only allowed one set of clothing at any one time. So when you go in there, You walk in stark naked, which is an unbelievable, it's so humiliating and degrading.
So degrading.
Because there were 1,000 guys in there, and I was the only white guy. Yeah, I just want to paint the picture of how terrifying that is.
I can imagine.
It's unimaginable. And you're given one set of clothing. And you're only allowed one set of clothing at any one time. And that's just a small short-sleeve shirt and a pair of drawstring white shorts. No underwear was forbidden.
Provided.
Yeah. And I shared a cell 13 meters long by 3 meters wide with 78 other guys.
My goodness.
So each person had 33 centimeters marked out on the walls in chalk. And that was your space. And you would get 3 worn out lice-ridden blankets each, and you'd fold 2 of them to fit that 33 centimeters as cushioning against the cold concrete floor. And you all packed like sardines on your sides, and you all faced the same direction, with legs all crossing over in the middle. And when you turned over, it was all together. And then the lice, Renette, that was the work for me. I mean, I can handle sleeping on the floor and a hard time.
On Facebook, my goodness.
The lice were unimaginable. They bit you day and night and left weeping, itchy blisters everywhere. And they never stopped, day and night. And there were thousands of them. And then we only had one set of clothing. So we had to wash our clothes in the cell toilets at night, wearing a blanket. Then hang them on the walls with smuggled book staples to dry by the next morning. It was unbelievable. And then in 2005, during the Zim dollar crash, Harare City ran out of water. For 3 years, while in Chikurubi maximum security prison, each prisoner was allocated only 1 plastic cup of water a day. 1 cup of dirty orange city runoff water from a nearby dam carried by farm prison. That was to drink, clean your teeth, wash your face, bath, everything for 3 years.
A cup of water.
A cup of water a day. And that's when everything started changing and guys started dying big time.
Of course.
I mean, it was a Zim dollar crash. There was no food. There was no food outside of prison, never mind in the prison. In my first 6 years, I watched over 2,200 guys die in prison.
My goodness.
In one weekend, 23 guys died. After I was transferred to Chikurubi Maximum, to Harare Central Prison in 2008 and 2009, there was a cholera outbreak in the prison
I remember cholera.
From the
taking.
I mean, it was the Zim dollar crash,
That's correct.
the global currency crash, and in Zimbabwe there wasn't food even on the shelves. In that 8 months, we were 1,200 guys in Harare Central Prison. 432 guys died. More than 1/3 of us. It was unimaginable.
I mean, how did you personally survive?
I didn't know God at that time. But I know he had his hand on me and he'd prepared me for something
What
like
you're
this.
doing now.
Yeah, what I'm doing now. And I'll get to that. I'll tell you how the Lord worked in my life. But the other conditions, people need to understand in a prison like that, there's no furniture whatsoever. There's no tables, chairs, cupboards, beds, nothing. Not even a mirror. I didn't see my face for the first 8 years. It's just filthy folded blankets and hundreds of well-used water bottles on bare concrete floors. The conditions were unimaginable. Yeah. So that's my life.
I can't actually visualize that. It's just too much. It's beyond thinkable.
It was unbelievable.
And relationship-wise, how did that? What was your relations within that prison? How did you encourage? How did you communicate? What kept you on that every day? What were you going through mentally and emotionally?
For me, the biggest thing that helped me through prison was hope. So, if someone had said to me, "You're going home in 3 weeks' time," in 3 years' time, I would have said never. I'm going home now. Like 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks I could live with. Anything beyond that was too painful. You counsel yourself and how to think through the physical impact your thoughts have on you. So if I thought about my fiance with another guy, or my mates on fishing trips, or, out in the bush, I felt the pain. So you block that out. You teach yourself how to think. It's incredible. So hope for me was huge. And
what was the hope that you, okay, if you weren't thinking of that, how did you keep hope when you're just living in the moment?
you realize
I'm sorry
that,
I'm asking these questions, but it's very important to understand how you stay in the moment.
people don't realize that hope is actually the anchor of your soul. It's what it kept me grounded and helped me to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Let your hopes, not your troubles, shape your future. And never look for hope outside of yourself. To find it, you need to look within. We're made in the image of God. So the results are, all the answers are in us. We just need to dig deep for them. But there were many other huge lessons I learned there as well, like forgiveness.
Please share whatever you experienced. Please, this is vital because we're all in some form of prison in our worlds.
Yeah.
We are trapped somewhere in pain of some kind, health, financial, relationship, even self-relationship with ourselves, where we're imprisoned.
Yeah.
And trapped, where we think we cannot get out of this.
Yeah.
And if you can just share in that unforgiveness of what was the legal system covering you in that time even? What was actually happening? Were you just like literally locked up and just forgotten?
Yeah. The humiliation of being labelled a murderer and terrible conditions were extremely hard to deal with. As was the pain of my bitterness, anger, hatred, frustration and revenge for what they'd done and were doing to me. I hated them bitterly. And initially, I would lie there for hours and just wish every terrible thing on each and every one of them. The poacher, the police, the courts. And eventually I realized that I was only hurting myself. I was carrying all that in my head and beating myself up for nothing. And the single biggest lesson I learned in prison was true forgiveness. And for me, it was bigger than anything I could have achieved on my own. True forgiveness was inspired by God Almighty. And so was letting go. It was a huge weight off my shoulders.
Was it a process or was
I learned to live in the moment from then on. The past was too painful and the future full of unkept promises. So I just dealt with each day as it was. I learned to have faith because no amount of worrying was going to change what I was going through. If you have anger or resentment towards anyone in any way, it will eventually destroy you. Because that is what those emotions do. They steal from you. They steal happiness and freedom.
Yes.
And people ask me, how did you forgive them for what they did to you? And I remember it like yesterday, Renette, walking in that exercise yard. And it was my second encounter with the Lord. I had 3 encounters with the Lord.
How did you encounter the Lord? And where did you said you didn't know him initially.
So this was the second one. In the courtyard when I was walking in there, full of anger, hatred and bitterness. And it was draining me daily. And it was after about a year, walking there, and I just looked up. And I'd been praying for ages. I prayed in the courtroom. I prayed almost every day, and nothing changed. It was just the same. And I looked up and I just said, Lord, take care of them, and let me get through this road that's been put in front of me. What goes around comes around. They'll get what they deserve. And I remember the feeling. I just felt like calmness, like it's gone.
Sure.
The Lord will take care of that. And my life changed from then on, Renette. And the only way I can explain it is like if you've got a secret that you've been keeping for years and years, so scared that your mate's going to find out. And then one day you just told them. It was out, gone.
Confession.
And that's what it felt like. Like, no more holding back. Nope, that's
dealt with.
And you can forgive, forget, and move forward, or you can retain, remember, and regret.
Wow.
The choice is
I'm
yours.
going to write that one down.
And if you say, I'll forgive, but I'll never forget, then you still remember and will never move
And
forward.
it's still,
And I
still
don't
holding
mean
you captive.
forget the lessons learned by the incident.
I hear you.
Just don't revisit the pain. Revisit the incident where it doesn't have emotional impact on you. That's the secret. You have to learn from it, but don't let it hurt you anymore. Now, Jesus said you can't have peace without forgiveness. Real forgiveness is emotional forgiveness.
Yes.
It's not remember, the lesson you learned. You know that guy did this to you, but it doesn't mean anything. You know what he's like now. And it doesn't matter if they don't forgive you. Forgiveness affects you, not them. You
Your
forgive
daily
someone
life.
for yourself. You don't forgive someone so that they can be okay. And that's a huge thing people don't realize.
They don't realize that.
Yeah. So forgiveness was huge. Gratitude was massive for me.
Okay.
We all want so much in our lives.
Yes.
And we concentrate on what we haven't got instead of being grateful for what we have. And for me, giving thanks to God every day goes a long way. For my health, a beautiful family, a lovely wife, a soft bed, running water and so on. When there's no food and no water and people are dying all around you, you become grateful for the fact that you're still breathing.
So
And another-
breath is another point of...
And another day is a blessing.
chance. Yes, another chance of life.
When you lie in a cell with 78 other people and your breath is not really even your own, gratitude has a
Can't
different
imagine.
meaning altogether. Accepting that what I went through cannot be changed and being grateful for what it taught me has unlocked my vision for my future. And
Praise
gratitude
the
was
Lord.
huge. Yeah. But
And
the
the thing is
encounters
that
that I had
you don't regret what happened to you
no.
because
No.
it's taken you, it's pushed you into your destiny.
Before I get to that, because that's a powerful finish for my interview. Because I want to share the two other incidents that I had,
Please
the
do.
encounters that I had with the Lord. The first one was, I was 18 during the war in Rhodesia,
Yes, I remember.
and I got lost in the middle of nowhere. It was on a deserted ranch that my uncle had grazing rights for cattle. We had gone to dip some cattle. And there were thousands of baboons there, and they were vermin from the damage that they caused. So it was 6:30 in the morning. I jumped out the vehicle. There, a troop ran across the road. And I jumped out the vehicle. And in those days, typical farm boy, no shoes, no shirt, no hat. Grabbed my rifle and took off. And I shouted to my uncle, I see him at the dip crawl. It was about 1K away. About 2 hours later, I was completely lost. And it was very hilly country, part of the Matopus mountain range. Beautiful, beautiful country. And on a 25,000-acre ranch with hardly any roads or fences. It's a totally undeveloped land. It's cattle country back in 1979. And by 6:30 that evening, Renette, I was finished. I'm exhausted, hungry, thirsty. I only managed to find a drying up muddy puddle with a dead giraffe in it. And I remember drinking some of that, but I was
My goodness.
thirsty like crazy. And in total desperation, I once again climbed up one of the many mountains looking for Mount Taula, which I knew and could work out where I was. And it was just mountains and mountains. Now, I grew up never praying. Boarding school, there was no praying. My mom and dad, we never went to church and nothing like that. So I never had a Christian upbringing at all.
So there was no point of reference.
And I climbed up on that mountain, got on my knees, first time in my life, and prayed. And I'll never forget the feeling of like warm water being poured over me and a total sense of calmness. And I had no idea what it was. I mean, I never knew about the Lord or anything. And I stood up calmly, just turned around like a zombie and walked down that mountain, same way I climbed up. And something just said, keep walking. And I just kept walking. It was long grass, just after the solid granite went into the soil.
Yes.
And about 10 meters further were 2-car tire tracks. My uncle had shot a kudu there during the rains the year before. Now, Renette, for that to happen is like 1 in a trillion. There was no roads anywhere near there. No fences, nothing.
Just by his instruction. in your...
So from those years, he'd been trying to reach me.
And not just that, but he also prepared you for what was coming.
Yeah.
If you think of that journey he knew what was going to come.
And I followed those tracks and finally got to the farm road where they were all spread out looking for me as it was getting dark. It was getting dark. Middle of the war, there was no roads or anyone living there within a 20k radius. Middle of the war, all alone, just a schoolboy.
Unbelievable.
And so that was the first time.
That is amazing.
The second time was on death row. So it was for a cell phone misdemeanor. They put me on death row to try and break me in a dark cell. So I was locked in. The cell was 3 meters by 1 meter by 3 meters. And the only vent, just a vent in there, was covered by a staircase built over it, and the electric light didn't work. Used to put people in there to break them. So I was locked in there for 23 hours and 45 minutes a day. So I was allowed out 5 minutes in the morning to clean my teeth, 5 minutes at 3 o'clock to prepare for lockup, 5 minutes at 10 o'clock to brush to have a shower. And I was in there 6 days. They were trying to break me, to tell them whose phone I told them I used the guard's phone. Meanwhile, I had my own phone, but they couldn't find it. And on day 6, Renette, now I was in there naked, 3 blankets and nothing else.
Goodness.
With a cut off 5-liter container as a toilet, and allowed out 15 minutes a day. On day 6, I got on my knees and I prayed. And I'll never forget the feeling of like warm water.
Yes.
And I immediately knew.
You knew
and
where
I
it came
remember
from.
straight away, it's that same feeling. So I knew everything's fine. So I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. Within 30 minutes, I faintly heard my Afrikaans mate. I was in a medium security, so there was an Afrikaans friend of mine that I made friends with in there, shouting from the soccer ground, "Hey, Russ, everything's okay, my mate. Don't worry, everything's okay." So I jumped up. I said, "Hey, fool." He said, "Don't worry, Russ, everything's okay." So I lay down on the concrete, looking up at the darkness. Within 10 minutes, I unlocked my door, chucked in my clothes, said, "The officer in charge wants to see you." So I go out into the blinding sun, across the courtyard, up the stairs to his office. And his exact words were, he said, "Hello, Russ." I said, "Hello, officer." He said, "Have you remembered the God's name yet?" I said, "No, officer." He said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it in God's hands. You can go back to your cell." And at the exact moment when I was praying, my sister was paying him $200 to get me out of there.
Praise.
And that was a huge turning point in my spiritual walk.
Yes.
I mean, I still hadn't given my
That is
life to
just
the
God
Lord.
on the mark, on
but
the
I knew,
point.
yeah, those 2 incidences, there's something bigger in life than just the material stuff that I've been striving for.
Rusty, what a testimony. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing it.
No,
Because
pleasure,
we're gonna have a second program with you, because
Okay.
I really believe that we need to know what is God doing with you right now from this, what you've learned and
Okay.
experienced, and how you've passed it on to those that we never know why things happen to us. And what I love about what you've said is the fact, what have we learned from where we've been, and how he takes that as a training field for what he's about to help us, help others, usher them into their destinies. And maybe you can just take your book and just share with us quickly. The book is called Beating Chains. I think it says it all. It says it all. Oh my goodness. If you want to contact Rusty, just look up, you have a website.
Beatingchains.com.
Beatingchains.com. And if you want to order a book or something like that, you must read this. I mean, I think it's just phenomenal how the Lord is using you right now.
Yeah, thanks,
but
Renee.
may the Lord just continue to use you mightily for his kingdom and his glory.
Thank
May you go from success to success,
Thank you.
higher and higher.
Thank you,
from
Renee.
this day forward.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us this afternoon. But we will see you next week.
Okay.
And really looking forward to what God is really doing in your life, and with you and for you as well.
Thank you,
And
Annette.
family and friends, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. It's been such a great honor and privilege to stand in for Hephzibah. She's missing you all. She has sent a message to say that I must say hi, and she'll see you soon as she's ministering in Belgium. And but she'll be back. And have a good afternoon further and evening further. And may we see you next week. Take care, stick to the rules, and goodbye.